Hello, once again, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome back to RJR Football. In this week's episode of Chiefs Concerns, I'm your host, Danilo DiGiulio, aka ThunderDan88, across social media platforms. Check out my other footage and coverage, such as Chiefs Chat on Wednesday night, right here on YouTube at 8 p.m. This week, we're going to get into another defensive player. We're going to flip-flop defense, offense. This week's defense will be offense again next week. And today, we're going to talk about safety Andre Cisco from Syracuse University. Now, Andre is a character that would have been going in the first round, but bear in mind, when I talk about these players, I'm not always going to be considering them for the first round. They're just people that I think are great players. They're my draft crushes, and I'm thinking about all the picks that the Chiefs have and where and how they may slot in there. So far, the three guys I've listed have all been available in draft mocks that I've done, and I've gotten all three of them in certain situations. So bear with me, folks. I love the comments in the chat. I appreciate the feedback, but don't crucify me for saying a guy's name and you think he's not a first rounder, because I'm not necessarily saying he is a first rounder. In this case, this is a guy who should be a first rounder, but likely won't be this year, because despite the fact that in his freshman season, he had 7 interceptions. In his sophomore season, he had 5 interceptions. And going into his third game of his junior season, he had another interception, was leading all of the NCAA football in interceptions, flying around, hitting people, picking balls off, getting guys in the backfield, looking like another Ed Reed type coming out of college. He got injured. He tore his ACL in a freak injury in pregame warmups before their Georgia Tech game. So that's probably going to have Andre sliding down to at least the third, maybe the fourth round, unless somebody's really aggressive and comes up and sees him for what he is and takes him the second. If somebody has some maybe inside information on his injury recovery going really well or something, you never know who might jump up if somebody really needs a safety. I'm looking at it from the perspective that if he's there in the third or even late in the fourth, we have multiple picks in the fourth round, he might be a prime candidate for the Chiefs roster. Having Juan Thornhill, who went through his first season, got injured, and then we saw him come back. We saw how a safety can come back and return to form in Juan's second season, and he looked fantastic near the end of the season and going into the playoffs. Now, you say we have Juan Thornhill, we have the Honey Badger. Well, we usually play packages with subsets and 3 safeties or 4 safeties sometimes, 5, 6 DBs. You never know how many guys are going to be out there. It's the best DBs are the guys that Spags and Andy want on the field, playing defense and covering people and hitting people and making plays at the line of scrimmage. And this is a guy that takes the ball away effectively. This is a guy that wraps up and hits hard. He might actually have to be toned down a little bit for the NFL because some of his hits are pretty aggressive. But he seems to be a clean player. He seems to just be a very aggressive one. But I love his ball skills. He's not a guy that's going to look like a DB and drop the ball. And the old joke is, if you had good hands, you'd be a wide receiver. This guy could be a wide receiver. He's just a really great defensive player on top of having great hands. Now, as I said, this guy likely wouldn't be there. He'd likely be in the first round. So a team like Kansas City, who has Tyrann Mathieu, who they're looking to re-sign for a longer-term contract, who has a young guy in Juan Thornhill, my spirit animal, Dan Sorensen, I love him. I don't know if he's going to be back this season. He might be. It might only be a 1-year deal again. $4 million for a guy that's getting a little older gets a little tougher to bear each season when you're trying to build out a roster with a $500 million quarterback who I wouldn't trade for all the gold in paradise. Patrick Mahomes is a fantastic player and a fantastic person by all accounts, and I really love the fact that he's a Chief. This kid coming out of Syracuse, it's a good program. I walked on there. Had he not been injured, would have been joining Will Allen of the Giants to Bucky Jones of the New England Patriots and Donovan Darius, formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars, the last two of which I walked on at Syracuse and had the fortune to play with them in football. Donovan was the best athlete I've been around in my lifetime. I played 10 years semi-pro, and it looks like Andre is a similar beast. He's very healthy, very fit. Not as big. Donovan was closer to 6'1" or 6'2", and around 220, 225. But just a physical animal, a physical specimen of a man. He's got a bit of dog in him. He's got a bit of the Honey Badger type player in him. And I dig that. And I think that'd be a great guy to bring up under the Honey Badger's wing. I'm sure Tyrann Mathieu would have no problem coaching that kid up in the pros and keeping his nose clean and keeping him on the straight and narrow and helping him build that secondary into a great secondary for the future, with Juan and Andre leading the way 2 or 3 years from now. I'd like to see him to become a Kansas City Chief in the 4th round. Let us know what you think in the chat. I love your comments. Please bear in mind that I don't presume that these players are all going to be first rounders. There's as many picks that the Chiefs have. And just because he's a draft crush of mine doesn't mean I foresee him being taken in the first round. I've done 3 now draft crushes, and I could get all of them in mock drafts that I've done so far. So I'm spreading them out. I'm spreading them around. Just because they're a draft crush doesn't mean it's a first round pick, folks. But keep those chats coming. Keep everything coming in the comments. If you haven't been here before, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Tap the notification bell there so you get all of our future content. We look forward to your comments in the future. And as always, go Chiefs.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.